Can the Seattle Seahawks restructure their way out of some salary cap difficulties for the 2025 season? What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well today. And we've got more salary cap discussions we need to have concerning the Seattle Seahawks. I started the conversation yesterday with the cut video, which I'm sure most of you guys have already watched. If not, go back and watch it, because if you don't watch that one, then some of the things we say here won't make a lot of sense and the conversation will be incomplete. But the short version is that the Seahawks are about to be in some salary cap danger for the 2025 season, and they got to do some work to clear cap space. If you go to Spotrac right now, and I don't believe this number is even reflective of reality, they are negative 23.4 approximately, negative 23.4 million in cap space. They are in the hole by a lot. And I believe the actual number, if you account for all the things that need to be accounted for, rookie money and practice squad money and the last two roster spots who do get paid, you're looking at more like 35. Now, the good news is I was able to easily get 35 million in savings and many more dollars without even doing anything all that painful, just by looking at the cuts yesterday. So if you watch that video, you'll feel a lot better about that number. Remember, as of right now, we have almost no dead cap hits. So the cap hits that are killing us are not cap hits that are stuck. If they were dead cap hits, they'd be stuck. But that's not the case. We have about $250,000 in dead cap. However, there are some decisions that need to be made. And yesterday we went over most of them. Today we're going to go over a few more with restructuring candidates. Yesterday was the cut candidates. Now, some of these guys were discussed with the cut candidates, but there are other options that you could take when it comes to keeping or not keeping a player. Often with a player, you can make one of three decisions. You can say, okay, are we going to cut him? Are we going to restructure him? Or are we going to extend him? Now, here's the thing with restructuring. It can't be done for everybody. And some years, like this year, there are only a few players you can do it with. This is going to be one of those years where there are only going to be a few restructuring options for the Seahawks, but we're going to go over them and we're going to seek to understand them the best we can. Before I get into this analysis, though, please like this video if you haven't already. Click the thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new. Click the bell for notifications. Become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to help support the channel. So let's talk about how restructuring a contract works in the NFL. The idea is that an NFL contract for a player is made up of two different monetary amounts. You have the base salary, and then you have the bonus salary. The bonus salary is, and I'm going to simplify things as much as I can here because I don't want to spend the whole video talking about this, the money that the player is going to get no matter what. It's the money they basically get up front. It's like you will get at least this much money as long as you sign this contract. The base money is the money that is contingent on them actually being on the team each of the years of the contract. The team can pull back that base salary by letting the player go early or moving the player early or whatever. It's also this base salary that can be moved around a little bit. Here's the way that it works with a player. So you take a look at your team, and here are the keys. In order to find a player with a restructurable contract, you need to find a guy who has multiple years left on his deal, at least 2 years left on his contract. And they need to have a non-trivial base salary that you can convert to bonus. So if you have a player with 1 year left on his deal, you can't do it because there's nowhere for the new bonus money to go except the current year. It does nothing. And you can't do it for a player that has a minimum or near minimum base salary because there's nothing to convert. So what you need is a player with a non-trivial base salary and multiple years left. That's what we have with these three players. And what you do is you take the base salary down as far as you want to, up to and including the minimum amount for that player. And for these players, for veteran players in general, the minimum base salary is about 1.21 million. and then everything that isn't remaining in the base gets converted to bonus. And the bonus money splits itself in the cap hits for all the following years. So it's better to restructure a player that has 3 or 4 years left on his deal because there's more years for the money to divide itself up between, but 2 years will work too. So that is how restructuring works in the NFL. So with those constraints, there are really only 3 players the Seahawks can consider restructuring in the traditional sense. Right now we have Leonard Williams leading the way. He is by far the most intriguing restructuring candidate. His cap hit for 2025 is $29.2 million. But his base salary is $20 million of that. So hold on one second, guys. My phone's ringing. Sorry about that. We're back. But yeah, $20 million is base, which means you can convert $18.8 million into bonus. So the new bonus in 2025 becomes half that, which is about 9.4 million, which means you are talking about a new cap hit of 19.8, which means you're saving almost exactly $9.4 million. That's significant. Now, here's the thing to remember. That cap savings is getting kicked into 2026. So now you're drastically increasing the Leonard Williams cap hit for 2026. But if you're planning on extending Leonard Williams next offseason and moving that cap space down the line, that's okay. And the way Leonard Williams played this year, that's at least something you can think about doing. So this would be one of the restructuring levers I would strongly consider hitting. I would strongly consider freeing up this $9.4 million if you plan to go for it in free agency, if you plan to spend big and try to really fix the holes on this team with aggressive free agency money. So that is the one big lever that the Seattle Seahawks can pull in the realm of restructuring the contracts. So the next guy up is Uchenna Nwosu. He is due, like we said yesterday, $21.2 million, but about $14.5 million is base. So that means you can convert about $13.3 million, meaning the new 2025 bonus is $6.6 million. So the new cap hit becomes a much more manageable $14.5 million. That means you're saving about $6.6 million against the salary cap in 2025. Again, that money gets pushed into 2026, but that is one way to clear immediate cap space. I don't know how appealing this is going to be to people. I think that this is something that you maybe do later, not in the offseason, but during the actual season. Maybe it's something that you consider doing because you want to make a trade midseason and you're trying to free up the cap space for it after you see that Nwosu looks good. But I don't know if we can feel good enough to do it in the offseason. And then there's one more guy, and this one is small, but it is technically a way to save about $1.9 million. You can restructure Jason Myers. Do 6.8 approximately. Base salary is just under 5. So the convertible base is about 3.7, meaning the new 2025 bonus is about 1.9. The new cap hit shrinks down to about 5. The cap savings are 1.9. So you could save a little bit of money there. Again, that's probably something that you would do if you would do it mid-season so you could afford to make a trade. If that's just the little bit you need to get over the finish line, that's not really going to bail you out in the offseason when you're trying to throw a bunch of money at somebody like a Tevin Jenkins or a Trey Smith or whoever it is that you're coveting with a big contract in free agency in all likelihood. So those are really the only 3 traditional restructures that we can do. Now, there is the consideration of void years. You can tag a void year onto any contract. Like, we could take a look at a player like I guess you could do it theoretically with a player like JSN even, or Devin Witherspoon, where you just say, hey, we're going to tack some void years onto the end of your deal so we can get your current cap hit down below its current amount. You could do it with somebody like a Geno Smith or a DK Metcalf, where you say, hey, we're going to take some of your money from 2025, push it into a void year in 2026. Generally speaking, the player will not care that much because they're still going to get that money. And the void year just makes it harder for them to not get the money, if anything. So they often welcome it. But I think that there is something to be said about maybe doing some void year stuff. Like, you could definitely push Leonard Williams money into a void year in 2027. You could push some Uchenna Nwosu money into a 2027 void year. You could do it with any extensions that you hand out this offseason. You could do it with any free agents you sign. So there is another conversation to be had there. This isn't the end of the quote-unquote restructuring, but it is the end of the traditional restructuring, right? You can attach like 5 void years to any deal. We could go to Michael Dixon's contract and put 5 void years on it and slip $1 million into each one and pay him basically nothing in 2025, but that's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down, because you could do that with pretty much any contract at any time. Some teams do this very aggressively, some teams don't, but it's available to teams that want to do it. Okay, so that's all for this conversation. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys would pull any of these levers. I have my own position on this one personally. I have my own way in which I would handle this. And I think that it's a good conversation to have, even if we end up not doing any of it. Because again, we don't have that many options. These are really the only 3 guys by traditional metrics. All right, I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Another video, final video in this series coming tomorrow, where we talk about another layer to all this salary cap conversation.